If you work for tips in Nevada, the first question in 2026 is not how much you made in gratuities. The first question is what wage floor the employer had to pay before tips. In this guide, we stay with official sources only. That means the Nevada Labor Commissioner at labor.nv.gov, the Nevada Constitution and Nevada wage statutes, and the U.S. Department of Labor at dole.gov. The plan is simple. First, Nevada's minimum wage floor. Second, the current official bulletins you should check for 2026. Third, the overtime thresholds. Fourth, the rule that tips are extra and do not replace wages. And finally, the federal FLSA rules that still matter for tipped jobs. Nevada does not use a lower tipped minimum wage the way federal law can in some other states. That is the key starting point. As stated by the Nevada Labor Commissioner on the official state site, Ballot Question 2 eliminated the old two-tier minimum wage system that depended on qualifying health benefits. So for covered workers, Nevada now uses one statewide minimum wage floor. Nevada employer guidance also says that tips or gratuities received by employees shall not be credited as any part of or offset against the minimum wage rate. For tipped workers, that means tips are on top of the wage floor, not a substitute for it. For a real 2026 pay question, the safest first move is to check the newest official Nevada bulletin. The Nevada Labor Commissioner website posts annual minimum wage bulletins and annual daily overtime bulletins. As of this presentation build, the site surfaces those official postings through 2025. The same state site also explains that Nevada's minimum wage increased to $12 an hour on July 1, 2024. So if you are reviewing a paycheck in 2026, use labor.nv.gov first. If a newer 2026 bulletin has been posted, that newer bulletin should control the current notice check. According to Nevada Revised Statute Section 608.018, overtime in Nevada can work in two different ways. If the employee earns less than 1.5 times the state minimum wage, overtime is due after more than 40 hours in the scheduled week, or more than 8 hours in a workday. With a $12 minimum wage, that line is $18 an hour. If the employee earns at least $18 an hour, the weekly overtime rule still applies after more than 40 hours in the scheduled week, but the daily 8-hour rule usually does not. Nevada law also recognizes a mutually agreed 4-day, 10-hour schedule exception for the daily rule. Here is the distinction that matters most in tipped work cases. Tip sharing is one question. The employer's wage duty is another. Nevada guidance says tips or gratuities cannot be credited against the minimum wage. The same guidance also says it is unlawful for any person to take all or part of tips bestowed upon employees. At the same time, employees may enter into an agreement to divide tips or gratuities among themselves. So a valid employee tip split is not the same thing as using tips to pay the employer's wage bill. In Nevada, the wage floor must be paid first and the tips remain tips. Federal law still matters, even in a Nevada first analysis. On the official website of the U.S. Department of Labor, dole.gov, fact sheet number 15 says a tipped employee under the Fair Labor Standards Act customarily and regularly receives more than $30 a month in tips. The same federal framework, in Section 3 says employers may not keep employees' tips, including by allowing managers or supervisors to keep them. And the Department of Labor warns that overtime for a tipped employee cannot be calculated on only a reduced direct wage when a tip credit is used. Nevada is more protective on the wage floor because the state does not allow tips to replace the required state minimum wage. So in practice, Nevada employers need to satisfy both layers. If you want a fast paycheck review, move in this order. First, check the posted hourly wage before tips. If that hourly rate is below Nevada's required minimum wage, the problem starts there. Second, compare the hourly rate to the $18 overtime line. Below that line, check both the daily 8-hour trigger and the weekly 40-hour trigger under Nevada law. Third, keep the evidence. That means schedules, pay stubs, clock records, and tip pool details. Then compare those records with the official Nevada Labor Commissioner materials and the U.S. Department of Labor guidance on screen. Here is the bottom line for Nevada tipped workers in 2026. Tips are extra. They are not the wage floor. Nevada's minimum wage has to be paid first. Daily overtime can apply below the $18 line, and weekly overtime still matters after more than 40 hours in the scheduled week. Use labor.nv.gov for the current Nevada bulletins. Use Nevada Revised Statute Section 608.018 for the overtime framework, and use dole.gov for fact sheet number 15 and the federal tip rules. This presentation is educational only, but the official sources on screen are the right place to start.